We're going to get started now. And, you know, this really is one of my favorite workshops. We've introduced uh, three other workshops that we have. We have another one that will be launching March 5th. And these workshops are intended to allow you to live your life on purpose. And we found as we were doing the traditional workshop we had done, the Aligned Habits workshop, that distraction was one of the biggest things that we've been struggling with. So we want to give you the tools and the resources to be able to live your life habitually inspired. And part of that, the way you get there is by getting rid of the distractions. You can live your life focused and free, living your life on purpose, but you got to get rid of the distractions. And it gets right to the heart of why so many of us feel off track. And even when we're busy and working hard, we still feel off track, but because busy doesn't mean productive. Many of us spend our days feeling busy, but really we're just distracted. We may take care of a few things, but really we're constantly distracted by all the incoming messages and media, and we're not really focused on our goals and our true self. We're not focused on our big, exciting goals. We're just accomplishing little tasks, and we're not free from distraction. So we want you to live free as your true self. Before we begin and get really into the substance of what we're doing here, I'd like to start off with a short grounding exercise to get us all focused, relaxed, and fully present here so that you can make the most out of this time for yourself and your personal growth. So if you can join me in just a couple minutes, we're just going to find our breath. We're going to get focused and get undistracted. So take a couple minutes to be fully present. So if you can, close your eyes or bring your gaze down low. Try, if possible, to breathe in and out through your nose, bringing awareness to the breath. And try not to get stuck on any particular thought. You really want to focus just on the air coming in and going out. You might say to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, or something like love in, love out. You might feel the air expanding in your lungs or your diaphragm rising and lowering. Just breathing in and breathing out. Just an inhale, followed by an exhale. Just going to take a few moments to be fully present. Just focusing on your breath. If a particular thought comes in, just let it pass like a cloud passing through the sky, focusing solely on the air coming in and going out. Being fully focused and fully present with your breath. Take a couple more breaths, returning just to the air coming in and going out. And now join me in taking 3 deep breaths. I'm get rid of all the stale air at the bottom of your lungs. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it at the top, and then sigh it out. We're going to take a deep breath in, hold it, and then sigh it out. We're going to do 2 more of those. Deep breath in through the nose, hold it at the top, and then let it go. And 1 more, deep breath in. Last one, deep breath in. Take as much air as you can into the bottom of your lungs. Take little sips of air until you can't take any more. Keep going. Hold it at the top, and then let it all go. All right. Now that we're fully present here, you can do that anytime. Anytime you need to get focused, take a few moments to find your breath, to be fully connected to your breath. So now that we're all here, maybe you can just give me a quick show of hands. Who here has ever sat down to do something important, do something that you needed to do, and found yourself checking your phone or responding to messages or emails or scrolling social media before you even get started, before you even get started? Yep. Same, yeah, I know, me too. Anyone else? Show of hands. You can give a thumbs up. You can type in the chat. Whatever works for you. Yeah, I'm with you, Chad. We all are guilty of it. And I asked, if you do those things, even before starting. But I also wonder if you do that even once you've started. It's tough to focus. It's tough to focus. And how many of us wake up? How many of you first spend time with your phone instead of yourself? How many of you wake up and first spend time with your phone instead of yourself? How many of you pull out your phone and start scrolling while you're out in public in line at the store or waiting for your train or waiting for an elevator? How many of you subconsciously reach for your phone while out to dinner, talking to friends, or playing with your kids? Me too. My hand is raised. It happens to all of us. And this is just the distraction that our phone presents. And we're not here just talking about the phone. I mean, we're going to be talking about other distractions in life, like the negative news and television and getting pulled into other people's issues or things other people want us to get into, or how alcohol and drugs take us from our true self. Every screen is an opportunity for distraction, and they're everywhere. I mean, I go out to dinner and, there are 3 screens, even at, nice normal restaurants, not even, sports bars. The TVs are on everywhere we go, constantly distracting us. And every distraction is a lost opportunity to live as your true self, to be focused and free, to live your life aligned with your purpose. If you're living your life aligned with your purpose, you're not distracted. You're doing those things that your true self does. To live that life on purpose, not distracted. Here's a quote by a children's book author, Kim Uliana. I found this when writing my book, Be the Light in the Mirror. And it's really powerful. I put it in my book when I was discussing distractions. And it says, your cell phone won't feel bad if you don't pay attention to it. It won't care if you haven't played with it in a while. It won't mind if you don't hold it. Your cell phone will be small forever. Your children will not. How many people spend time sitting there scrolling or distracted in text conversations when their kids or their loved ones are right in front of them? I mean, I know I say, hey, I got 7 kids. There's always someone vying for my attention. And, I'm always saying, hey, hold on just a second. I just have to send this email. Usually it's work related. I'm not just scrolling for the sake of scrolling, but it is an issue. And the issue is that we're distracted from what's right in front of us. Does scrolling through news or social media get you to your goal faster? No, it fills your brain with negative inputs of others and wastes your time and takes your mind off of what matters most. Does a drink, a joint, or gummy get you awake early and excited about your goals and dreams? No, it numbs your emotions and your dreams so you put them off for another day. It slows you down on your journey. Our addictions to the phone, alcohol, drugs, the negative news, social media, and other distractions take our focus from what matters most. The dependence on these devices and other distractions takes us from what matters most, from our dreams and from our loved ones. Modern life is full of distractions. All sorts of technology, news, communications, and content are vying for your precious limited attention. There are endless choices. Endless choices. And yet, there's only one choice. The choice is to live as your true self or not. Distraction is our mind's way of avoiding discomfort. It's not easy and comfortable necessarily to live your life on purpose and do the things that you have to do to live as your true self. The problem is, the more we distract ourselves, the more we drift from our true self. The focused, aligned version of you who is focused on what truly matters and is free, energized, and excited for life. Here's an amazing quote by Blaise Pascal. If you've ever been to my Aligned Habits workshop, you've probably heard this before. Distraction is the only thing that consoles us from our miseries, and yet it is itself the greatest of our miseries. I kind of fumbled that, so I'll try it again. Distraction is the only thing that consoles us from our miseries, and yet it is itself the greatest of our miseries. Blaise Pascal is saying that distraction is the greatest of our miseries. Not those things that we might do or lost opportunity or not hitting our potential, not something we did or said to others, not how we did something wrong. It's the distractions that keep us miserable. Distractions derail your destiny. Constant detours from your true self and your big goals, especially to phones, social media, and negative news, pull you off the path to your goals and away from the person you're meant to be, the person you've envisioned in your mind since you were young, your true self. And be honest with yourself. You know who that person is. You've known in your heart since you were a kid what your purpose in life is. And a lot of people ask me regularly, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? When you stop and listen, you know what it is. It's always been there. Your true self has always been there. Your purpose in life was laid out for you when you entered this universe. So today, we're going to identify some of the biggest distractions, understand why those show up, and we're going to create a plan to replace those distractions with aligned actions that help you feel centered and clear. Here's what we're going to cover today. First, recognizing distractions. Second, why we distract ourselves. Third, distraction replacement. And lastly, designing your life to live focused and free. And yes, absolutely, we will be sharing recording to answer your question. We will absolutely be sharing a replay of this. And I should have said it at the beginning, we'll share a replay, but we're also going to share with you some of the resources that we have that are going to help you. So Yeah, we're absolutely going to share these. Don't feel like I don't want anyone to feel like you have to take notes or write feverishly. We're going to share everything with you. We always do. We always make sure all of our free resources are available to everyone. Our goal is to inspire as many people as possible to live life focused and free. So we will make this available to you, and we'll have the slides, but also some additional resources. So we're going to do some exercises in each section to get you thinking and focused, to be fully present here for the next, call it hour or so, 50 minutes, without distraction. Breaking the cycle of distraction is what true freedom really is. Freedom from outside influence, freedom to shape your own days, freedom to pursue your big dreams, and freedom to live your life on purpose. Freedom to live as your true self. I mean, when you envision your true self, you don't picture yourself, your best self, back arched, staring at a screen like this. But yet that's how a lot of us spend our days. Hunched over, constantly looking for something, looking for an answer, but it's not there. To break the cycle and live focused and free, we first need to understand what is distracting us and keeping us from living as our true selves, and then understand why. So we're going to work on now getting into recognizing distractions. The American Psychology Association defines distraction as a stimulus or a task that draws attention away from the task of primary interest. So, I mean, I'm going to ask you what your primary interest is. Most people wouldn't say, scrolling social media or replying to emails. Yeah, most of us would say our primary interest is some higher purpose or one of our big goals that we set. If you've been to our Aligned Habits workshop, we talk about setting our big goals. Your primary attention should be on living life on purpose as your true self to accomplish your big goals. Distraction can take many forms and it might not be tied to a physical item or activity like your phone or TV or social media. Things like anxiety over world events fed by the negative news, comparing yourselves to others, and negative thoughts also draw our time and attention away from what's really important. Those negative thoughts, I think Marianne is on. Marianne always gives me a hard time about this because ants are positive for her. But from Gary Cotty's book, he calls them ants or annoying negative thoughts. Annoying negative thoughts. Ants that are constantly crawling through our mind. Now, I read once that we have roughly 60,000 thoughts a day. Now, I don't know who is counting these thoughts, but whoever the people are who are responsible for counting such things came up with 60,000. So we have roughly 60,000 thoughts. These people who are responsible for counting such things have told us that we have roughly 60,000 thoughts a day. So are your thoughts helping you live life on purpose as your true self, or are they just distractions? You can retrain your brain to stay focused, to stay positive, and get rid of the ants, get rid of the annoying negative thoughts. Or as Marianne says, avoiding negative thoughts. And we're going to stay focused. You can retrain your brain to keep that focus. You can learn to let thoughts that don't serve you pass by like clouds just passing through the sky, just like I said during our brief meditation. You just return to your breath, or you return to your positive thoughts. I mean, I lay in bed for usually 45 minutes after I'm awake. And that's even before I get to my sitting down meditation. And during that period of time, that 45 minutes or so I'm in bed, I'm usually reciting to myself a series of positive thoughts and sayings that I've come up with. And then I sit down for a 30-minute meditation. I spend over an hour and 15 minutes on focused, positive thoughts and clearing my mind and focusing on my breath before I ever look at my phone. And you'll hear me mention during this today, you want to spend at least the first hour of the day and the last hour before you go to bed without looking at your phones, without screens. You can learn to let those thoughts that don't serve you just pass by like clouds. You can recognize the thought or the distraction, call it out and say, hey, I'm doing this thing or thinking that thought that is not what I want to do. I'm going to take a deep breath and return to that which helps me live on purpose. The incredible and powerful Bruce Lee. We know him as a martial arts artist and movie star, but he also had a lot of amazing quotes. Bruce Lee said, if you love life, don't waste time, for time is what life is made up of. If you love life, don't waste time, for time is what life is made up of. Don't waste your time. Live life habitually inspired. Distractions rob us of our precious time and energy. Every time we check our phones or switch tasks or try to do two things at once, we burn mental fuel that could have gone towards something meaningful, to our life and our goals. And Jim, I'm going to have to check that out if that Bruce Lee quote's taken straight from Benjamin Franklin, or Franklin said something similar. So thanks for pointing that out. Distractions derail your destiny, is what Bruce Lee or perhaps Ben Franklin are both saying. I have found in writing my book that there are a lot of quotes that are, attributed to someone, but really it was, people 2 and 3 times before them that actually said that, and they were quoting them. Someday people will probably be, quoting me from stuff from my book where I'm quoting other people. Because as you can see from my workshops, I love quotes. They inspire us and they remind us of how to stay focused and free. The point here is that distractions derail your destiny. Constant detours from your big goals, especially the detours to phones, social media, and negative news, pull you off the path to your goals and away from the person you're meant to become. The phone addiction and other addictions, dulls your presence and your connection. Our unnatural reliance on phones damages relationships, weakens focus, and drowns out the inner voice that guides us to our true self and our higher purpose. You want to consume only positive content. What you consume shapes who you become, just like the food that fuels your body. The content you feed your mind, especially negative news, directly impacts your mental state, your health, your physical and your mental health. I mean, you're going to hear some evidence in just a little bit. I do go into this in depth in my book, but negative news actually affects our physical health. Now, there's a great quote about this. I really love this one by Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar has a lot of really good ones. And I think those are actually his, Jim. So you can check it. But Zig said, your input determines your outlook. Your outlook determines your output. And your output determines your future. So your input, what you're putting into your mind, determines your outlook, your point of view, your perception of the world. And your outlook, your perception of the world, determines your output, what you're generating. At work, in your personal life, in your professional life, your spiritual life, what you put out into the world. And then that output is what determines your future. So if you want to create a bright, amazing future, then change your inputs. Get rid of those inputs that are distractions. I'm constantly feeding myself positive content, and it's transforming my life every single day. I mean, I have here, spiritual books and, self-development and personal growth books and quotes. I have the Tao Te Ching, the Ramayana, the Daily Dad by Ryan Holiday, which is, you know, 366 days of meditations on parenting, love, and raising kids. And I have quotes per day, and I have my journal here that has quotes in it. And I surround myself in those inputs that change my life, that determine my future. I have so many people, I'm talking close family and friends, who are telling me about all the horrible things going on in the world. But they're horrible to them because they're the ones consuming that. I don't consume that negative content. I don't even know about it. Now, I know some of the things that are going on in the world, but I don't sit there and follow the news. And you'll hear me later, I talk about strategic ignorance, where I used to be a news junkie, and now I don't consume any news. Now, there may be something important. I'll talk about this later. But you want to think about what input you're receiving. Input means, just as it says, put in. What are you putting into your brain? The whole world outside of you is not real. It's only your perception of it. And your perception of it, and my perception of it, and everyone's perception of it is different. We can all be looking at the exact same thing, but have very different thoughts about it. So we create our own reality. What is it that you're putting into your brain? What are you consuming on your phone or on your computer or on the TV? Is it quality content that inspires you to achieve your goals? Or are you just observing and interacting with the lives of others? They now call all that information that you consume on this supercomputer there's Junie, all this stuff, your feed. All the stuff you consume on all these platforms is called your feed. The output that you get from an algorithm is your, quote, feed. Come on, people. Feed is what we give livestock. Feed is what we give horses and pigs. You're a human and do not need feed. You need healthy food, love, and true connection with others. You need healthy content that helps you be your true self and inspires you to greatness. You don't need feed. Are you nourishing yourself and your brain? Are you creating your future by being on your phone or just reacting to others? Reacting to what you see on your feed? You are the master of your destiny. You are the master of your day, not the servant to endless videos, communications, and messages of others. If you want to live more fully, create your own inputs. Consider being proactive and change those inputs. Make the list of books that you want to listen to on Audible. And if you need a list of them, I've got them. I will give them to you. I have been consuming obscene amounts of positive content on Audible for over 8 years. That has helped fuel the positivity that I'm inspiring you with today. And I actually think we are going to post, if we haven't already, we'll be posting a list of some recent book recommendations that I have for you. Change the inputs. Create only positive inputs in your life and think, is this helping me? And if not, get rid of it. The phone, TV, and internet all contain a certain feed that people have been trained to create that is becoming incredibly destructive to our society and our well-being, and taking us even further from our natural state. And that dependence is on this endless news cycle where We're fed a constant barrage of horror. So if, as Zig Ziglar said, your input determines your outlook, which determines your output, and your output determines your future, then what future are we creating? By constantly feeding ourselves news filled with confrontation, anger, death, and destruction. It seems like we need to know what is going on right now, but we don't. Our responsibility is first and foremost to ourselves, our loved ones, and our community. You are responsible for your life. You aren't responsible for keeping up with everything that happens in our massive world. The purpose of the news used to be to report what was actually going on and was received once or twice a day. Now the purpose of the news is strictly to sell ads, and that's it. In order to sell more ads, they have to get you hooked. And fear is the best way to get you hooked. Why? Because it triggers chemical reactions in your brain that react to the forged fear that you see. It's not real. The forged fear you are perceiving is not actually in front of you. You're not being chased by a tiger or seeing war, death, political fighting, or robberies in front of you. You are being shown a cultivated story or video to induce fear or conflict, which causes your brain to release cortisol. Cortisol is the body's main stress hormone. When perceiving fear, the brain triggers the adrenal glands to release waves of cortisol. Dr. Tracy Johnson describes cortisol as nature's built-in alarm system. It works with certain parts of your brain to control your mood, motivation, and fear. But cortisol isn't just a stress hormone that impacts fear and perception in your brain. It regulates vital functions in your body. Negative news is actually negatively impacting our physical health. And this is research. I mean, I researched this much. I didn't know any of this. I'm not making any of this up. This is researched extensively, and I have it in my book. Negative news is actually impacting our physical health. Too much cortisol can derail your body's most important functions. It can also lead to a number of physical and mental health problems, including anxiety and depression, headaches, heart disease, memory and concentration problems, problems with digestion, and trouble sleeping. And Alexandra, yes, it's too depressing because they want it to be depressing, because that releases cortisol. And cortisol makes you hooked to make you feel like you need to know what's going on to avoid being attacked by a tiger. And it absolutely does control the population. And the whole purpose is to sell ads. So they have to get you hooked. I mean, you ever wonder why you feel like hell when you are so young and should feel great? I mean, even if you're, 70, 80, 90 years old, you feel take good care of your health. Ever wonder why you're tired, sad, or can't concentrate at work? Ever wonder why your belly hurts or you have high blood pressure? Now, I'm not a doctor, but my dad, grandfather, great grandfather all were. It's kind of like snagging a Holiday Inn last night. I'm not an expert on it, but the reality could be just because you're consuming too much news and producing too much cortisol. If you're having physical or mental health issues. Now, if you go to the doctor or get a screen, a doctor's not going to ask you how much news you consume and how much doom scrolling you do. You don't even know you do it. But you spend a lot of time scrolling through the horror because you've been trained to think you need to know what's going on. We all have. But while we're talking about this dependency on things that distract and keep us from true selves, I mean, the negative news certainly is a really bad. And everyone's talking about yeah, these challenging times and how difficult things are. It is perhaps and just all in. Oh goodness. Okay. If you can't hear me, let's change this. All right. All right. Let's see. Is that any better? Yeah, I hope that wasn't the case this whole time. My AirPods were in my pocket. Uh, oh my goodness. I am so sorry, guys. I'm really sorry about that. I wonder if I've been talking on my AirPods in my pocket this whole time. Hopefully not. I'm sorry for that. Maybe it just switched over to them. Let me just make sure my audio settings are right now. Okay. All right. So here we are back again. I'm sorry. We're operating in the real world. This just lets you know that this is not at all pre-recorded, that I've been on some workshops. Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi do a great job at Mastermind, but they hosted this workshop that was tagged as live. But I was trying to chat with some people who were on the videos they were playing, and come to find out they weren't at all live. The whole thing was recorded, and it was just the feed was live, and there was someone moderating it. Um, it's just the world we live in. But I mean, that's part of what we're talking about today, right? Is being focused and free. And, that means operating in the real world with real technical difficulties. So, while we're talking about dependence on things that distract and keep us from our true selves, I think it's necessary that we also mention drugs and alcohol. Now, I don't want to be too preachy here. I only just gave up alcohol and weed myself a couple years ago. But the results that I felt since then have been absolutely undeniable. Now, I've personally never been a big drinker, but after I was finished with work, it wasn't uncommon for me to quote, chill out by hitting the weed pen. I was using weed as a way to de-stress and disconnect. And why? I don't really know. I mean, I could go to all kinds of different issues that I was trying to mask or numb. But since I stopped completely, almost 3 years ago, and congratulations, Jim, that's absolutely wonderful. Keep it up. And since then, for almost 3 years, I'm happier, more productive, healthier, and more loving than I've ever been. I no longer dampen that light from within. And, my time feels more fulfilling and more purposeful. I'm not just trying to rush through things and rush through my day to numb myself again. Alcohol and drugs are a part of our culture, and it evolves from youth into an adult social activity and stress reliever. But let's be real. For me back then, and for lots of people, it's an addiction. And surprisingly, since quitting, I'm also far less stressed without these so-called stress reducers. I had a great life and plenty to be happy about. Although, as we all do, a lot underneath that, needed to be addressed. But I'm more able to address those things now that I'm not, numbing or escaping. We've culturally accepted that once work is done, it's time for quote, happy hour. But hopefully you'll join us for happy hour tomorrow at noon, which is a time to close our week out strong and end up setting ourselves up for a successful week next week and go into the weekend with intention.
It's just been a great part of, we added it just about a month ago and love doing the happy hours. Anyway, you know, the point about happy hour, meaning when people go out after work, is, are we really happy when we dampen our true selves, our aspirations, and our true feelings without addressing them? Does numbing ourselves really make us, quote, happy? Buzz makes us feel good temporarily, but it's not real happiness. In fact, after the buzz wears off, we typically feel slower and far worse with headaches and hangovers. Plus, the underlying stressors did not disappear, so they're compounded. We're just distracting ourselves from what matters, and we certainly are not focused and free when we rely on intoxicants. And that's why we're here today, to break the distraction cycle, to live focused and free. And real happiness comes from living as your true self. And you can't do that if you're distracted. And sometimes our distractions are obvious and sometimes they aren't. When you're unsure if something is a distraction, ask yourself, does this leave me feeling energized and excited or drained and demotivated? If it's not enriching your life and getting you closer to your big goals, and living your life on purpose, it's a distraction. So now let's get into a little bit of exercise now that we've gone deep into talking about distraction. I want you to take a deep breath and take a piece of paper. Remember, I said at the beginning, you're going to need a piece of paper or your journal. And I want you to divide the paper into 4 columns. In the first column, the column on the left, at the top right, distractions. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes here, and I want you to think about your life and what the biggest distractions are for you right now. And write them down in this column. If you're not sure if something is a distraction, ask yourself, does it make me feel like my true self? Does it get me to my big goals? Most of what we do or interact with every day is a distraction from living our life on purpose. So, what are the primary distractions in your life that steal your focus? Some examples, and put what works for you. What's best for you? Some examples are phone, email, negative news, social media, drugs, alcohol, multitasking, worrying, overworking, people pleasing. I'll give you a couple minutes and just consider, what are the primary distractions in your life that steal your focus? And then we'll come back and we'll fill out the other columns. All right, take a couple minutes, consider what the primary distractions are that steal your focus. All right, take another few seconds here. Maybe 30 more seconds thinking about the distractions that steal your focus. All right, let's do this. Also, I adjusted some of the light. I know the sun comes in here, so it adjusts it a little bit. I love the sun, so I never pull the blinds out. I love the warm sun coming in. So I think I just adjusted the light a little bit though, so it shouldn't be so dark. Um, all right, so now that you've done that, I want you to look in the second column and at the top right fields and take a couple minutes just to consider the distractions you just put in the first column and in this column, write down, how does your distraction leave you feeling after giving into it? Does it leave you energized, happy, neutral, anxious, sad, self-conscious, frustrated, drained? It doesn't have to be negative. I mean, like I said, it could be energized, happy, neutral. I'm not trying to tell you what your distractions have to make you feel. But if we're talking about not focusing on our primary mission, our primary purpose, our true selves, then we're distracting ourselves. So how does that make you feel? Yeah, no worries, Kelly. It's how the distraction make you feel. So in column one, you wrote your distractions. In column two, how does your distraction leave you feeling after giving into them? And I'll give you just a minute or two to consider that. And then we'll move on to that. And we'll get back to column three and four a little bit later after the next section. But um, just go ahead and take, call it, 60, 90 seconds, maybe 90 seconds, and write down how your distractions leave you feeling after giving into them. All right, just take another few seconds here. And feel free to let me know, if the amount of time I've given you is too much or too little. Always looking for feedback on that. I don't want to rush people, but I also don't want to, hold us up. And have you just sitting there. Um, so yeah, always welcome that feedback. I never really asked that. Um, I never really asked that, but I really should ask for your input, how we're doing on time. I usually try to give sort of 2 to 3 minutes time on certain exercises on different workshops. So thanks for that feedback, Jim. Appreciate it. Anyone else, let me know if we give you about enough time. And if you need some more time, you can always just put, in the chat, need a few more seconds. I don't want people having to sit here awkwardly wondering, hey, when's this workshop going to keep going? And I also don't want you to feel rushed. Okay, sometimes not quite enough. All right. Um, so now that we've got those down, set the paper aside. You'll be coming back to it. We'll get to sections 3 and 4. We're going to start getting into how to replace those distractions. But I want you to imagine, if you can, we're talking about your focus. The same kind of goes for time. We talked about time earlier, but it just occurred to me, we're talking about focus, but it kind of goes to time as well. Imagine your focus as a light beam, as a beam of light, as this amazing, sunlight. There's only a certain amount of light coming out, and every distraction splits that beam. Like picture, your headlights or a, bright flashlight, a beam of light. Every distraction splits that beam. A text here, a notification here, until your light is scattered or diffused instead of directed. Our goal today is to gather that light back into focus. Your light is meant to shine and shine brightly, not be dimmed by distractions. When you're on purpose, living as your true self, your light shines brightly. When you're focused, you have a bright beam of light. When you're distracted, it's completely dispersed, and no one really feels your purpose and your true self, and you don't. But when your light is focused, it shines brightly, and you feel that glow project out into the world. We want to keep your light beam focused, not dispersed, not distracted. So now we're going to talk about it here in section 3, why we distract ourselves. I mean, as we're talking about it today, it seems so obvious, right? And I'm talking about these things, but I'm guilty of many of the same things. And I've spent years and tons of effort and hard work to try to overcome these distractions, to live focused and free. That's why I'm able to talk about it now, because I've been so distracted for so long. But I'm now living focused and free, and I want to share that with so many people as will listen. Because we don't talk enough about why we get distracted. Our addictions to the phone, alcohol, drugs, the negative news, social media, and other distractions take our focus from what matters most. The dependence takes us from what matters most, from our dreams and from our loved ones. So if there are so many negatives that come with distraction, why are we so drawn to it? It seems so obvious, right? Just don't do this and that's bad for me and do this that's good for me, right? It sounds so obvious. But why do we let distractions take precedent in our lives over our big goals, our happiness and our dreams? Here are some of the primary reasons. Emotional and mental states. Uncomfortable feelings like anxiety, stress, boredom, and loneliness trigger a desire to escape. So you may want to be focused on your goals, but yet when you find stillness to figure out how to accomplish them, that boredom or perhaps, the stress of trying to figure out those goals creates the need for distraction. And second is a physical state. You know, lack of sleep, poor nutrition, both of those are very prevalent in our society. Lack of sleep and poor nutrition make it difficult to concentrate and can lead to brain fog and fatigue. And some of those other things like, drugs and alcohol, our physical and mental state. I mean, that takes us away from feeling our best. Lack of motivation and interest. If a task isn't interesting, it's easy for the mind to wander. And the mind will wander to things that are more enjoyable or entertaining. I mean, that's why the phone has been designed to be a weapon of mass distraction because there's a limitless amount of enjoyable and entertaining distractions that are there for us. And like Kelly said, the physical state can also encompass our surroundings. And we're going to talk some about environment as well. But setting up our environment for success is really important. We will talk about that in a little bit, Kelly. But most of us don't get distracted because we don't care, right? I mean, we truly care. We want to live life on purpose. We get distracted because we're avoiding something. Like we're drawn to distractions because we're avoiding something like, discomfort or boredom, socialization. We're avoiding silence, fear of failure, or even fear of success. A ton of people are distracted because of fear of success. They feel like they don't deserve success, or what will they do once they get what they've wanted? Silence. I teach on Saturdays a yin yoga class, which is meditation, and yin is a more meditative type of yoga with longer holds. It goes deeper into our joints and our connective tissue and our fascia, but it also helps us find stillness. So the class I teach is actually called Sacred Stillness. Everyone is so uncomfortable with silence now. Like I said earlier, there's always a TV on wherever you go. There's always a radio on. There's always music playing. Like, why are we so uncomfortable with silence and stillness? Are you going to have your eureka moment? Are you going to find your true purpose in life with a ton of noise or in silence? Will your true self and your higher power present your purpose to you when distracted by noise or in silence, in circumspection? We avoid silence. We avoid doing things because of our fear of failure or success. Another reason a lot of you might get distracted is perfectionism. Perfectionism equals procrastination. We put something off because it's not perfect. And procrastination equals distraction. A lot of times we put things off because we want them to be perfect. And I came up with a quote addressing it. I've heard some different quotes, one of them in a book that says, don't wait for the conditions to be right to begin. Beginning makes the conditions right. But I started adding to that, something I've said recently, which is, good and done is better than perfect and undone. Good and done is better than perfect and undone. We put them off. Fly Lady says, housework done incorrectly still blesses your family. Yeah, good and done is better than perfect and undone. When you want something to be perfect, you wait for the conditions to be perfect before starting. So you put it off until tomorrow or next week. So we distract ourselves, until some other task is done first. The cycle of procrastination is how we go a lifetime without recognizing our dreams. When this happens, then I'll be happy. I'm going to be able to do this once my kids are grown, or I'm going to be able to do this once I have enough money. The kids are always going to need you, and there's never going to be enough money. Yeah. Good and done is better than perfect and undone. You got to just get it done. As with any great endeavor, you just need to start. And there's no grander endeavor than building your amazing life today. Like I said, Cohen said, do not wait until the conditions are perfect to begin. Beginning makes the conditions perfect. You just start. Thinking about it and having great ideas do not make them happen. You make them happen by taking action. The rest of your life is an extraordinary endeavor, and you may as well be who you want to be starting now. I know Jeff Hoffman, he was the founder of Priceline or original investor in Priceline. He's the guy who invented airplane kiosks, airplane check-in kiosks. He was a young engineer, like in his mid-20s when he invented them. But he's also been a Grammy award-winning producer and a bunch of other things. Anyway, Jeff Hoffman had a sign over his door that said, in his office, I think when they were doing Priceline, that said, um, how'd it go? Give me a second. Said, ideas are welcome, action is cherished. You can come in with your ideas, but just take some action, take some ownership. You want to get started. If you ever done the Aligned Habits workshop, you've heard me quote Robert Brault, who said, "We're kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal." So if you haven't done that workshop, here's the example. These people were on their way to a mountain summit to see the best view in the world. But there was a sign that said great view over here. So instead of continuing onto the mountaintop, they all ran over, climbed to the scenic overlook, and saw a nice view. But they didn't continue on to the summit. We're always taking detours and getting off the highway to our dreams, not because it's too hard or too far, but because we're distracted by what's right in front of us. Instead of hitting their goal of climbing to the top of a mountain, those folks were distracted by the sign that said great view. But these folks were not distracted and they continued to the summit to see the amazing view from the summit. That's getting to your goal. That's not getting distracted by the clear path to lesser goals. Now, if you still have your paper, at the top of the third column, write avoids. In this column, you'll be writing what it is that your distraction is trying to keep you from. What are you avoiding with your distractions? Some examples are anxiety, restlessness, overwhelm, loneliness. Like Alexandra mentioned, being alone, we distract ourselves. We avoid silence because we don't want to feel alone. But in silence, I gotta say, and sorry for being distracted by that, but it's a good point. When I am silent and sitting in meditation, I am not alone. I am connected to all that is. When you truly are silent and you calm the mind, you are connected to all of the universe. You're connected. You can feel the heartbeat of all of those around you. You can feel the trees move and the ground crawling with life. Think of all of the insects in the earth and on the trees and all the animals that are all around everywhere. You are not alone when you are silent. Quite the opposite. When you're silent, you're connected with the source of all that is. So, what are you avoiding with your distraction? Is it discomfort or boredom, socialization, silence, fear of failure, fear of success? That noise will get less loud. What are you avoiding with your distractions? And take a couple minutes, ponder this. Go back and look at column one, what are your distractions? Column two, how do they make you feel? And column three, what are they avoiding? What are you avoiding with your distractions? And spoiler alert, column four is going to be, we're going to start replacing them. But for now, just put, what are you avoiding with your distractions? All right, let's come back. If yeah, I think I gave about 3 minutes. I really appreciate, everyone being so open and honest and vulnerable in sharing, in reading some of those. We all struggle. We all struggle with these distractions, and what we're avoiding isn't necessarily easy. There's no doubt about it. We're talking about things like, avoiding ourselves or physical pain, success or conflict, being indecisive, avoiding disappointment, or avoiding loneliness. And I understand because most of those things I have felt as well. And I'm not saying that I don't continue to feel those, but I've replaced those feelings by not being distracted, by living life on purpose and focused and free. And I'm not saying this is easy, but it's also not as hard as you might think. When given the proper tools and the discipline to stay with those. So, if you've done the aligned habits workshop, when you do, or if you're doing the true self project, even, and you have the tools and resources and know what your big goals are, then you're able to live life in a way that you are focused on those and excited by those. And in finding stillness and dealing with those things. I mean, in True Self Project in week 3, we talk about extensively about getting rid of bad habits. And I know about those because I've had those as well. But in dealing with these, and I mean, I think that's why we're all here together, is to address those. Every distraction is trying to serve you. It's soothing something. It's giving you a microdose of comfort, control or connection. So the key isn't to shame the distraction, but to decode it and rewire it. Once you understand what you need, or once you understand what need that distraction is trying to meet, you can call it out and replace it with something that is aligned with your true self. You can let it fall away. I was just reading a wonderful book by Thich Nhat Hanh. If you've ever heard of Thich Nhat Hanh, he passed away a couple years ago, but he was a Buddhist monk, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, and very, very famous. He's written dozens and dozens of books and was, celebrated internationally for his work. And he's written many books. I was reading one book he wrote called True Love. He wrote a great book called Being Buddha, Being Christ, True Love, The Art of Communicating. Those are some of his books. And Chad, I think we just told people we would share some books with them. Maybe some of those titles that we were going to put in our posts, maybe we can share in the chat here. But, in discussing those distractions or um, those things that are the reason things that we're avoiding with the distraction. Disappointment and loneliness and fear of success and indecisiveness and, even physical pain, avoiding our true selves. Thich Nhat Hanh describes in True Love, which did this meditation after I first read that book a year or two ago, of caring for that distraction or that avoidance, that discomfort or boredom or fear of success or disappointment, loneliness, caring for it the way that a mother would care for a child, caring for a child when it cries, rather than just replacing the pain and the discomfort or the failure or the lack of feeling like our true selves or uh, feeling like we're not enough, or even the physical pain. Holding it, imagine, close your eyes and visualize holding that pain the way a mother or a father, because I feel very maternal at times, would hold a crying baby, soothing that pain or that discomfort or that avoidance or that loneliness or that overwhelm or that anxiety and holding it and caring for it and loving it, letting it know that you understand. That's how you call it out and get over it. You care for it. You love it. It's been a part of you. We're not just one thing or the other. It's a big part of Buddhist thought is we are not just love, although that is what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught we overcome our suffering but we are suffering and we are the ability to overcome the suffering. As Christ taught, we're forgiven of our sins. You can't let them just eat at you constantly. And the way you overcome them is by caring for them, not by avoiding them, not acting like they're not real, not just running away from them and distracting ourselves from them. Lean into it completely. I've done these meditations. Close your eyes. Sit down for 30 minutes. Think about what it is that holds you back or hurts you the most, or that makes you feel lonely or disappointed or indecisive or causes you fear of success or conflict or even your physical pain. Imagine holding it in your arms with your eyes closed and loving it completely. And then cry those tears that are overwhelming emotion. Love that discomfort or boredom or fear of socialization or fear of success. And then you'll be able to move past it. Let it fall away. Love it and then wish it well. Now let's replace those distractions with something new. After you've loved it, you can then let it go. You can let it go and not let it eat at you anymore. You can replace those distractions with habits that are going to help you live as your true self and overcome all that has held you back. About replacing distractions with habits. Like I said, for years, work was over and I would smoke weed. Yeah, and then hang out with my kids and, sort of chill out, feel more relaxed. A lot of people do that with a little, with a beer or uh, bourbon or whatever it is, whatever our vice is. Maybe it's scrolling through social media. Maybe it's the news. But I replace those distractions with positive habits. For me, what I called out is I call dead, debt, anger, and desire, three things that eat at me constantly. I called them out and I replaced that with being aligned, abundance, love, inspiration, God, now, eternal destiny. You can replace those things with something positive. So you know how to recognize and diagnose distractions. We just did it. But how do you leave them behind for good? Distractions are really just habits. They're bad habits. Like I said, in week 3 of the True Self Project, I go through a whole week of bad habits and how to overcome them. And like bad habits, they can be most effectively be broken by replacing them with positive habits. And habits both good and bad are hard to break. And, I've had my bad habits, like I said. I used to smoke cigarettes or using weed or staying up too late, even constantly checking emails and texts, which I still have to remind myself of despite all these habits and checks I put in place or, in using my habit tracker that I work on every day. And I've had a good couple days on my habit tracker after being off for a couple weeks. But it's a lot easier to break bad habits when you have good habits and positive reinforcement to replace them. So if you get distracted by your phone, make a habit of turning the phone off or leaving it somewhere you won't grab that won't grab your attention. I mean, for me, a great practice I put in my habit tracker is, be fully present with kids after work because I found I was always distracted and couldn't turn off. The way I overcame that was I would finish up work and then go put my phone on the charger and spend an hour hanging out with my kids. Replace your bad habits with a good habit. If you get distracted checking emails and messages, create boundaries so there are specific times in your day to read and respond. If you're drinking every night, make it a habit to make a smoothie and enjoy it while, listening to or reading inspiring content. So if instead of drinking alcohol, you make yourself a smoothie, the routine becomes the smoothie, not, the beer or, putting scotch on the rocks. So you'll recognize the distraction. Like here, work is distracting me from precious time with my kids, and replace it with a healthy habit. You know, Set a clear stop time for work and then do something creative together with your kids. It's yoga time. And whether you have kids or not, I mean, it doesn't have to. Yeah, and some of it's discipline, Kelly. I agree with you. There's an app for everything. I mean, I'm talking about consuming positive content, but I'm also talking about, consuming that positive content, meaning Audible or Spotify, using Spotify or Audible, positive music, positive content, are on apps. But it's about being disciplined as well. But also, maybe you don't need those apps for an hour. I mean, or maybe it's just that I will only listen to music or positive content. I mean, you don't need to constantly check all those apps. And I know it's an addiction. I know they turn off all the notifications. Maybe it's that say no app checking. Certainly no phone for the first hour of the day and the last hour before you go to sleep. And we'll cover that some more. But set boundaries. Recognize the distraction and replace it with a healthy habit. In the words of Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. By retraining your brain to live a more positive, productive, and happy life, you're more easily able to be focused and free. So even if you've done the same negative routine for decades, your brain can be reprogrammed through deliberate practice. Again, Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. If you want to be free from distraction, then set new habits and do them repeatedly. It doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you can retrain your brain for love, happiness, and success. I'm on this constant loop of just positive content, positive, sayings, not necessarily just affirmations, but I am or positive statements about what I'm doing in my life. There's a great book called A Happy Pocket Full of Money, which is more about physics and living positively than it is about money. It's a cool book. Um, so if you want to be free from distractions, then set new habits and do them repeatedly. It doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you retrain your brain for love, happiness, and success. Positive habits are the key to making your dreams and your goals real. The Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, said, chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. Meaning, don't stop. The habit may seem like it's too light to be felt, like it's not making any difference. It's too light to be felt until it's too heavy to be broken. You don't feel it, and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, I've been doing these habits. I can't stop doing it. Like I don't necessarily get to all my habits on my habit tracker. I've been tracking habits for 6 years now, but I'm reminded of them when I'm not on them, and I love getting back on them. They're too heavy to be broken. You don't want to wait for your future to happen. It's not just going to happen. You want to start being the person you are meant to be right now. It doesn't have to be profound or difficult. You want to make it simple. So we will provide to you the habitually inspired habit tracker I was just referencing, which we created as a simple way of tracking up to 10 daily habits. What is your focused and free, true self do? that you aren't doing right now. You want to pick those things and be that person. You want to pick those things and do them now. You'll quickly become that person you're meant to be. My life is improving each day because I'm tracking that which matters most to me. I'm holding myself accountable by tracking it. I'm living as my true self, unchained from distraction, focused and free. You want to start living like, dressing like, and being that person you are about to envision. It's you, but different. It's the person you are meant to be. You will start to become that person. So, who do you want to become? And are you fired up to become that person? Jim Rohn said, motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Habit is what keeps you going. Your bad habits, your distractions, they keep you from being focused and free. They're just bad habits that can be replaced with good habits. We're here to live focused and free, to set big goals that energize us for the future. Like I said earlier, people complain about these challenging times. You don't want it to be challenging times any more than change it. Let's together raise the collective consciousness. I mean, there's 20 of us here right now. If we make our world better, we can make it better for others. This time, we're going to accomplish those goals. We're going to replace the distractions with habits that help making achieving those goals inevitable. Now, I want you to visualize yourself, and we're going to do a brief visualization exercise. And I just want to thank, by the way, Ed, for putting that out in. Um, that's absolutely wonderful. I did not know about that. Um, Media Addicts Anonymous. Yeah, that's totally awesome. I did not know about that. Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, it's most of us nowadays. I mean, they got us all hooked. It's great. It's great stuff, man. We got so much awesome content. I mean, part of what I'm talking about now is consuming positive content. I mean, I'm talking about so much, wonderful content that we can consume online. But yeah, we also got to find limits to it. And we got to live in the present. As Ram Dass said, be here now. I will build a cathedral one brick at a time. We're all going to work on it. So I want you to now do like we did at the beginning and close your eyes. And I want you to, as you close your eyes, return to your breath like we did earlier. Part of the reason that we focus on the breath is because when we focus on the breath, we drop into being fully present here. And the breath prevents us from being distracted, allows us to drop into our body and be fully present. I want you to close your eyes or bring your gaze down low if closing your eyes isn't comfortable. Breathe in and out through your nose and visualize meeting yourself 1 year from now. At the end, just not even 1 year, call it, 10 years and 9 days. I mean, 10 months and 9 days. 10 months and 9 days from now. It's December 31st, 2026, the end of this year. Envision yourself at the end of this year, focused on your goals and free from distractions. What would you do with your time? You'd probably spend more than an hour, maybe a couple hours, distracted on things that aren't your highest purpose each day. What would you do with that time, free of distraction? Picture yourself at the end of the year, focused on your goals, free from distractions, peaceful, focused, and free. and ask yourself, what do you do with the time now that you are free of distractions? Spend the next couple minutes spending some time with yourself at the end of this year, seeing yourself focused and free, and find out what you do with that time now that you've gotten rid of your distractions. Okay, take another 30 seconds or so. Wish yourself well and thank you for that time. All right, continue to bring some presence back here. Once you've gotten back here, start to flutter your eyes a little bit. Now, I fully encourage you, as I always do, to spend some more time after today's workshop doing this visualization exercise. Really figuring out what you could do with that extra time. I added it all up. I probably should have brought it up, but the amount of time that I added up, I wrote it in my book. Um, the amount of time that we get back from not looking at our phone for the first hour of the day and the last hour at night and getting rid of distractions like the negative news and constant email checking and doom scrolling ends up being like more than a month a year. Can you imagine getting back more than 10% of your time, getting back like a whole month to a year? We are wasting our time living life distracted. so that others can make money with those tools. Not that they're not helpful in certain ways, but they're distracting us from our goals. So you just met yourself a year from now, and hopefully that gave you a clear picture of the good habits that you can use to replace your distractions. Now, I want you to pull out that piece of paper that we've worked on. And now we're going to fill out that fourth column. In the last column, write replace. Here, you'll write how you'll replace this distraction with a healthier habit that leaves you feeling like yourself. So take 2 minutes to fill this in honestly. Just take, 2 minutes again and look back through what you wrote. You got your distractions, how they make you feel, what they're avoiding. And now, what are you going to replace them with? What is it that your true self at the end of the year, your focused and free self at the end of 2026, this year is the year that we are going to live as our true selves. What are you going to replace that with? What is it that your true self does with their time that you aren't doing now? Take a couple minutes to fill that in honestly. All right. Uh, Hopefully we're ready to go and you found what you're going to replace these with. Oh, I just noticed we have on the slide chat it says, what are you avoiding with your distractions? I guess we need to put what good habits are we replacing there for journal prompt 4. Anyone want to share Happy to answer any. I mean, we got some more stuff to cover, and I know some people might need to go shortly, and we will, of course, make the recording available if you need to go and watch some of it. But um, anyone want to share? Who's want to share one distraction, and what you've discovered it's really about? Um, yeah, phone block planning. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, block planning, Jim, has been such a godsend for me. I used to do it a lot more. I need to get back to it of scheduling email time so that I don't check email. Um, TV, early bedtime, and uh, coin collecting doesn't sound like a bad distraction, but I guess maybe that you spend time doing that instead of doing some other things that you need to do. Um, Getting to journaling and planning. Yeah, I mean, look, I have some great uh, things that I put in place about, flow. Yeah, I hear you on ADHD, brother. Um, you know, the if we create a flow, part of, having ADHD too is creating structure in place that really helps us succeed. And that is, I generally Monday for planning my week and getting focused and handling more planning type activities. Tuesday and Thursday, I create for, calls, meetings, and things that, deal with more distractions. Wednesday, I set up as a very focused, productive day where I don't do, calls or meetings so that I can get those all done. And then Friday, I generally keep for wrapping up any tasks that need to be get done for the week, some bigger strategic items in the morning, and then for the afternoon planning for the next week. So, I mean, that's part of the reason we do the happy hour is we work together on planning our next week, is a great way to do that. Um, Sequence planning for multi-step tasks, yeah, Kelly, is a great one as well. But we can create a flow that works for us. I mean, I even try to put flows into the month where, the first week of the month, I will work on sort of planning the work that has to get done that month for setting up big initiatives or collaborations with people. And then for the second and third weeks of the month, I try to do as much production and work product as possible. And then I leave the last week of the month to try to carve out, at least one day for a disconnected day. And um, we'll talk some more about disconnected days at some point. I'm not sure which workshop that should go in, but disconnected days, I definitely talk about in some posts and things like that. And um, yeah, there we go. Taking a disconnected day, it's a day that you disconnect from the things that distract you, meaning you want to go somewhere where you can be present, usually about 30 minutes away or so. And you want to do something intentional with your time, like not only like go for a hike or spend time in nature, spend some time thinking. Bill Gates used to go on think weeks where he would go to a cabin or go somewhere in nature, no computer, no phone, and that's where he said he would get all his good ideas. But when you're not distracted, it's a great way to remember what life is like when you're not constantly distracted by all the noise and all the notifications. Scheduling a disconnected day for the end of the month is a great way to reset and prepare for the next month. Yeah, I went to a Montessori school, Kelly. Certainly, yeah, that environment is, how we learn. So, working to reorder your environment, preparation is key. Yeah, absolutely. So, those are absolutely beautiful shares. I really appreciate it. And it's not about cutting out everything. It's about replacing noise with nourishment. Every time you remove a distraction, you create space for something else that restores your energy, not drains it. We want to design our focus. And now that we know what's pulling us off track and what we can replace it with, let's design an environment that helps us stay focused and free. I mean, it's a great segue, Kelly, because we're going to talk about environment now. Focus, excuse me. Focus isn't accidental. If anything, focus is completely intentional. You choose to focus just like you choose to be distracted. However, knowing is much different than actually doing. And often distractions win even when we know we're supposed to be productive. This is because we need to cultivate an environment where focus is possible. If we're looking to plant some flowers, are we going to choose a place with sandy soil and big shade trees? No, flowers aren't going to grow there. We're going to look for somewhere with full sunlight and nutrient-dense soil that roots can take hold in. It's the same for us in our focus. If we put ourselves in a distracting environment, someone else mentioned this earlier, working in an environment that's, chaotic or noisy, there's no chance we'll be able to focus for very long. We have to plant ourselves in the best environment to grow. For us, this starts the night before you go to sleep. And often you might go to sleep ignoring or even dreading the next morning, numbing ourselves with TV or phone scrolling. Don't do this. You're robbing yourself of your focus and inviting distraction into your life. You don't just fizzle out at the end of the day and stare blankly at the phone and TV. You want to win the day and be able to go into the next day victorious. It's your next round in the tournament of life. Instead, make a habit of thinking about tomorrow before bed and journal three things. I do this every single night in my journal, unabashedly called the best journal ever. Um, you want to journal three things. I call this my PM journal. You want to journal your wins from today. You want to measure your progress. What are your wins from today? What are your three top priorities that you'll get done tomorrow? I call them my big three. I then text these to my accountability partner. And how do you want to show up tomorrow? How do you want to show up tomorrow? Maybe even do it as an I am statement. I am feeling, however, and that's, your intention for tomorrow. It's so powerful and sets you up for success. And that way, as soon as your feet hit the floor next morning, you know exactly where to go. These three quick prompts are magic. They turn chaos into clarity and dread into excitement. When you start cultivating your focus the night before, you'll wake up with purpose and energy and be able to more easily maintain your focus throughout the day. Do you want to be the type of person that wakes up and says, "Good morning, God," or "Good God, morning"? Apart from our internal environment, our external environment is a source of endless distractions. While we have less control over external factors, we can fully control how we interact with them and the energy we give them. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? What's the first thing you do when you wake up? If you're like most people, you probably pick up your phone to turn off an alarm. But like I've said before, your phone is a weapon of mass distraction. Even turning off the alarm can turn into responding to texts, scrolling social media, or checking email. The phone is the number one environmental distraction we have. And it's one you should be able to make yourself be intentional about. So, how do we avoid this slippery slope? Apart from turning off your alarm or playing soothing music, you should try your best to avoid your phone or other distractions or other distracting technology for the first and last hours of your day. This time should be dedicated to yourself, not whatever pops up on social media or on the news. Your phone is filled to the brim with distractions that are looking to steal away your time and energy. Don't give it power over you. And don't give it power over the most important time of your day. The first and last hour of your day should be sacred time, dedicated to yourself and your glorious future, not whatever pops up on your social notifications or the news. Another great tip to use your phone to escape your phone. As with all things, finding a balance with how you use your phone is imperative. Use your phone to set downtime from your phone. Set time limits on certain apps or even delete distracting apps altogether. Set a no phone for 1 hour reminder to pop up an hour before bed and for the first hour you're awake. I use the phone example because it's a weapon of mass distraction. It's a great starting point for regaining your focus. We all have a finite amount of time and energy. Strategic ignorance is purposefully choosing to use that time and energy on things that help us live as our true selves by avoiding the negative news cycle and other things that distract us altogether. I decided not to consume negative news, si- 10 years ago. After the election of 2016, I made a conscious decision to get off the news. I scrolled news apps every couple hours. If I think about it, probably even more than that. Probably multiple times an hour. I'd been a news junkie since I was a teenager. I went to work to college in DC so I could work in the US Senate and the House. I mean, I was in the middle of it. I was all about it. I used to watch C-SPAN like most people watch ESPN, meaning I would watch congressional hearings like the nerd that I am. And yeah, it's okay, Alexandra. We'll see you later. And this will be recorded too if you want to catch more of it. But I ended up getting off the news in 2016, and the more I was off the news, the more I realized that it's just the same stuff repeated over and over again without much change. And when we're in it, it seems relevant and constantly changing, but it's actually not once you step back and see it for what it is. So at first, I stayed informed, but less often. I noticed myself getting healthier. That was the time period over 10 years ago that I started getting up earlier and incorporating getting to the gym early into my daily routine. I felt lighter and happier. And a couple of years later, I learned from Dr. Benjamin Hardy about the concept of strategic ignorance. To sum it up, we all have finite amount of time and energy, and strategic ignorance is purposefully choosing to use that time and energy on things that help us live as our true selves by avoiding the negative news cycle and other things that distract us altogether. So, setting up your environment and what you consume allows you to focus on your priorities, your goals, and your life without being distracted. The news is a distraction. You aren't driving your life when you're sucked in and distracted by the negative news. Instead, you're like a passenger on a wild ride being driven by an erratic, angry, drunk Uber driver. Someone else is driving you, and they don't have your safety and best interests in mind. You want to take control of the wheel and get off the news and drive your life. Now, before we close, we just want to set our intention to live focused and free. I want you to write one sentence to capture your intention for the next week, a personal mantra to protect your energy and your focus. Something like, I'm creating before I am consumed. I'm focused on what fuels me. I'm free from distraction. I am focused and free. So take just a moment and just, 30 seconds here and just make an affirmative statement for your intention for the next week to protect your energy and your focus. Take just a moment to do that, and then we'll proceed to close. I am determined to make this work. Love it, Jim. I'm excited to go to my appointments with my gifts from God. I'm focusing on my well-being and doing things that fuel it first. Beautiful. Kelly, Sam, I'm prioritizing my future. Alexander, I'm joking here. She had to leave, but I'm sorry I need to leave. I'm determined to make this work. I am living aligned. Abundance, love, inspiration, God now, eternal destiny. I'm focused and free. You can reclaim your natural state and become your true self by setting boundaries. Thank you all for showing up for yourselves today and by creating intentional limits on media, news, intoxicants, and digital input. By doing that, you return to your natural state of love, joy, and presence and reconnect with the light in the mirror. It's a glorious world, and we have one chance to make the most of it. That is the reason you decided to be here today. Instead of letting your phone, substances, and the negative news distract your attention from your life and your big goals, focus on what really matters. Focus on developing the person you see in your mind, your true self. Focus on being who you're meant to be. Focus on making yourself better, stronger, and happier. I mean, that's what I see in your I am statements. Focus on the love in the mirror and cast it out into the world. The world needs your light to shine, and it needs it to shine brightly now more than ever. Focus on removing all these distractions, keeping you from achieving great success and happiness. Now, unless Jim tells me otherwise, here's another quote by Bruce Lee, who said, "The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus." We all have it within us to be the successful warrior. It's just the average man with laser-like focus. I want you to live focused and free. You're now equipped to recognize, release, and replace distractions. So your energy goes exactly where it's meant to your true self. You can live each day habitually inspired, focused, and free. Thank you so much for taking the time to ensure your success today. Now, before we leave, I've got a couple of announcements to keep you inspired and focused. So I know you've heard me mention it a few times. I know some of you on have already signed up for it, but we always have the True Self Project available to you. By all means, join it. I know we have a coupon code there. It's TSP5 off. We've compiled, I mean, we worked on this from July through December, filming 5 to 15 minute videos and creating a ton of exercises and things that are kind of similar to what we did here. It's so impactful. It's a 30-day habit challenge for you to become your true self. What you learned today is a solid foundation for living as your true self, but truly living focused and free. Takes practice and consistency. So we released this True Self Project, the 30-day habit challenge, which is an on-demand course where you could do it in 30 days, you could do it all in one day if you were so inclined, but it would be pretty exhausting. But it's an on-demand course where you can turn these lessons you learned today into big goals and daily practices and start living confidently, undistracted as your true self in only a month rather than the years that it took me. I want to create a bridge to help you get there faster. So I think we also have, if you want to join us, I'm happy to help you as well to offer a free one-on-one coaching session. I know some of you have already signed up, and as soon as are a week or two into the True Self Project or even done with it, let me know and I will, do a free coaching session with you. I just want to help people get the most out of this as possible because it's so impactful. Uh, Now, I guess, do we have a homework? Do we have any homework? Yeah, so hopefully you join us tomorrow. We did move the time. I know you've heard me. Some of you have been on some of the workshops or even joined happy hour. We talked about moving it. We got some feedback from folks. We used to do it at 10 a.m. Tomorrow we're going to try to do this at noon. If you're still on, Deborah, shout out to you. Hopefully I forget, it's a workout class or something you have. Uh, we can do it at noon, and that's Eastern. So 11 o'clock Central. Hopefully that works, and 9 o'clock on the West Coast. So happy hour at noon. Hopefully you can join us for that. And it's just become a really great way to close our week. We talked in today's workshop about happy hour, being a time most people consume, alcohol, drugs, or unwind. We're going to unwind together with a whole bunch of positivity and inspiration. We're going to share our successes for the week. We're going to talk about what we want to go into and are excited about for the weekend. And we're going to talk about our intention for next week and setting up our big priorities for next week. So it's a great way to do it. As always, join us on social media. We put the link in there. You just go to our website and you can find, benparvey.com/happy hour. And you can join the stream from there. You can also add it to your calendar. So would love for you to join us. It's becoming a great way to share time with our community and get really focused and free. Happy to stay on if anyone has any questions. As always, follow us on social media. You just type in Ben Parvey and available, on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and LinkedIn. And happy to answer any questions if anyone has. As far as, announcements, next workshop we'll be doing next week. We have let's see, check the calendar. Yeah, with the Epic Daily Ritual workshop coming up next Thursday. We're going to be working on the evening and morning routines and rituals. It's a great workshop. A couple of people have attended that before. And then really excited to launch on March 5th. We're going to have our faith workshop will be launched. And we're excited about that. A lot of the practical tools we have, we discuss that help you live as your true self. But we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of the spirituality associated with it, and really looking forward to that workshop as well. So a couple things to keep in mind over the next couple Thursdays. As always, we do these workshops every Thursday at noon. So there are different ones. And if you have any questions, happy to stay on. I see Deborah has a question. Yeah, Deborah, what do you got? I don't know if you wanted to come off mute.
There we go. I couldn't find you. Thank you, Ben. I'm not able to come onto video,
That's
but
fine.
that's okay. It says the host has turned it off. So I wanted to acknowledge a few things. In March, I hope to start my 30-day class. I'm sorry, the one I signed up for.
Yeah, the True Self Project,
True
30-day
self
habit.
project. Right. And that's not what this question's about, but I want to let you know that. My question is that I've been really taking to heart this focused and free. We don't even have television connectivity anymore. I was
Right.
like, oh, maybe we want the Olympics. And then I realized that the Olympics are going to go on and there'll probably be things on YouTube I can watch later. But I wanted to stay focused because I could do a 24-hour thing on Olympics. And
Yeah.
it's just something our budget doesn't permit right now. And so anyway, I got an offer. I've been asked, I've been really wanting to teach part-time at a local wonderful Christian school. And they offered me a very short-term, 6-week though, full-time to substitute for a lady going on maternity leave.
That's great.
It's a lovely job. I thought I was going for an interview. Actually, they were just more or less doing an orientation of what else they were doing. They just bypassed the interview altogether.
They went to the presumptive close.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh my goodness, I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's a
Do you want to
lovely.
do you want to do it?
It's lovely. It's actually helping children who have some special needs.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Congratulations, Deborah.
I'm so thankful. But I have my own, true self project things I want to do. I have spaces in between where she has like 45-minute to an hour break several times through the day. And I said, I think I'll ask them, can I bring my violin and practice one time? Can I bring my puppets and practice?
Yeah.
Things I could I could do as fillers. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm finding myself saying, "Oh, this is going to tighten up." What do they call it? Tighten up the schedule. Really
Yeah.
kind of the margins are going to get a little closer. And any suggestions there in terms of protecting my well-being, as I look to, and it's only a 6-week thing, and then I think I'll have the bandwidth to tell them, okay, now when you need me, I'd really like to be available, maybe what preschool afternoons, or just 2 days a week, something like that, where I'll have um, you know the the record of having done a good job is my hope.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah, I
you?
mean, I would be really intentional with your time. I mean, like I've found the
Yeah.
busier I get, and I know you know this, but with, 7 kids and running 2 companies and
Yes.
in the midst, we finally got our house, in New Jersey listed on Tuesday.
Yay.
Hopefully that gets sold, then we'll be closing on the house up here in April. So, it's been the craziest time. It's been a ton to
Oh,
juggle over the last few months. But my point in that is being really intentional with your time. You ever hear a quote, if you need something done, ask a busy person to do it?
yes, yes, I
Um,
have heard that.
the busier you get, it's sort of the more intentional you get with your time, meaning the less distracted. So I
Right.
actually think, like I heard you say it, you said, hey, there are going to be these 45 blocks of time I can work on, my education or my puppets or my music, those things that you designed when you did the Aligned Habits workshop as in line with your true self. So if anything, it's almost a forcing function of
Oh,
being busier, making you allocate that time
yes.
and being more intentional with your time. So I find I'm able to get more done because I'm busier, meaning those minutes matter to me. So I say, hey, I have to get
Oh,
these things done. So I'm going to get it done at this time. So
okay.
it almost operates surprisingly as the opposite. So as you're doing teaching, you'll say, hey, I'm only going to have X amount of time in the evening to do these things that are a part of my true self that I really want to be doing. So I hope it helps you. That's my thought
Yes.
on it. And also blocking time just is so important. Some people mentioned it earlier. Um, some people mentioned it earlier, but blocking time is so incredibly critical. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I don't
The
know if you use your calendar on your phone or if you use a physical planner or something.
physical calendar, right? A
Yeah, I mean,
planner. Yeah.
be really intentional with it. I mean, I live by my calendar. Um,
That's so encouraging to hear you say that, Ben. And I was thinking, well, I could do if I'll miss the aquatics class, I'll just go to the gym early and get my swim in like I used to do when I worked full time. So, just make it like a fun swim challenge. I was like, I started to have fear. And when you talked us through what's the emotion, that's in the way. And I thought,
yeah.
yeah, I could use some time with myself to nurture that and heal that. And let the Lord just take me through it. That's a very tender exercise. But I'm encouraged hearing you
Totally.
say that the crunch of time can actually work to the benefit of my plan. And it doesn't mean I have to sideline it at all.
Yeah, if anything, being busier makes you allocate time better. It makes you
Oh,
appreciate the time and it makes you schedule and block the time for that which matters most. Just don't get
oh,
distracted, don't don't
right,
don't
right.
do the things that you shouldn't be doing. Do
Well,
the
I'm
things
following
that
a lot of this has been great, my repetition of this, because I don't pay attention to my phone in the morning or the evening. I'm doing my 3 wins and my 3 things for the next day. And I'm just cooking up a storm when I can, and taking care of my health and my husband, and and also we're learning to live within our means in a really productive way, and so that's been a great uh, course on self control for us. We don't go to the store when we don't need something, so we're not tempted. And I said, we're living like royalty on a shoestring. And my husband's like, oh, because I'm learning to
Yeah,
cook better.
I need some tips from you now, Deborah. You're gonna
Oh,
have to help
I,
me out because
I can definitely help you in that regard because we've had learned through the School of Hard Knocks, and it's really helping our savings is growing. Our money is making money for us instead of us spending it, and weeding out needs versus wants. So that's a good one. Okay,
yeah.
I need to let other people talk to you. Okay,
No,
Ben, I
no.
look forward to the next workshop next week.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you, Deborah. Yeah, we'll
Thanks
be
for the
working on
great
the epic daily
encouragement.
ritual. Yeah, of course. And excellent job and congratulations on the job. I'm really happy for you. I think
Yeah,
that's going to bring you a lot of fulfillment.
yeah, very, I think so too.
And those
Thank you
kids
so
are
much.
lucky to have you.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Ben. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Deborah. Oh, and we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Oh, yes, that's right. You changed the time. Amen.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think it's good. I have to check in with my personal assistant. she's
Yeah.
she's moving the laundry right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Bye
Anyone
bye.
else? Anyone else have any questions or want to cover anything, whether it's, something in the workshop or otherwise? You can raise a hand or you can just blurt it out. All right. Well, seeing none,
Um,
you can always. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
I
Jim.
I was watching something yesterday on YouTube. I don't know what it was called, but it was some guy that decided to stare at a wall for uh, I don't know. He had read something from some specialist counselor kind of guy, and he told him to stare at a wall for 15 minutes in the morning, and your productivity will go up because, well, to nutshell the thing, by doing that, it kind of emptied his mind of other concerns for those 15 minutes. And he said it gave him greater bandwidth, and he became very much more focused and productive as a result. Through the week, he had started the week very much behind schedule on a project that was going to affect a number of other people, and they were all worried about whether it was going to happen. And through that week, he ended up accomplishing twice as much as he had anticipated and hoped for. And they went from afraid and nervous to eager and excited over the things that he had come up with in just that short span of time and he completely attributed it to his morning I don't know uh what you would call that, but it
Yeah,
just
you can call it meditation, mindfulness, prayer, uh, contemplation, freeing your mind, whatever it is. The fact of the matter is it helps, and I can attest to that because this week. So I have a habit of my daily ritual of waking up and meditating and then journaling. So I usually meditate for 30 minutes and then journal. And usually I journal what I meditate. We don't have to go into that. My point is meditation. So, uh, you know, it's been a very busy time with all this, like things I mentioned to Deborah, all this shuffling and moving around. And, I had to go to our old house and get it cleared out and ready to get listed and things like that. And it was exhausting. And I was really off my routine from that. I mean, I was up from 1 to 3 in the morning for a whole week and, doing as much as I could. And I was physically and mentally exhausted, way off my routine. I wasn't getting up and meditating and journaling and doing my evening routine or any of it. I was way off. So, last week I was kind of getting caught up and I was still kind of off my routine. Now, by this week, I was starting to get back to, getting to sleep by 10, wake by 5. Um, and the last 2 days, I got in, I was up before my alarm got off. And then, I will say that morning meditation has allowed me to accomplish so much the last few days. It clears your brain. And it allows you to be focused, meaning getting rid of those distractions. So that practice of staring at the wall, which I haven't heard that, but if you replace that with what we went through at the beginning of this class, and you spend 15 minutes to 20 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour, whatever works for you, mindfully breathing in, breathing out, and just focus on that breath. And as thoughts come in, say, hey, there's a thought, but I'm going to let it go, and return to your breath. And you do that, you will find that level of productivity and focus. It really helps.
Yeah, he did that along with what you were saying about, disconnecting from phones because, it's so distracting. And yeah, the two paired with one another were exceptionally helpful for him.
Yeah, Chad just made a good point of some people probably really benefit from having visual component like the wall for them to focus on similar to the breath. And it's a good point. I mean, whether it's the wall or your breath, the point is that the focus is on something other than the random thoughts. And a lot of times those thoughts are negative or they're worry or they're self-criticism or they're about some stressor that we're worried about. And that doesn't make us feel good and it makes us, not as productive. But if we are focused on, a blank wall or on our breath, then we are focusing on those things and not, our troubles or our worries. So then we feel better. We reprogrammed our brain to not release the flood of cortisol, to not have the worry, and to allow us to be more focused because we've reduced the anxiety and allowed ourselves to be calm by being focused and focused sort of blankly. So yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, and thank you for everything.
Yeah, of course. I hope it helps. If you need, additional resources, let us know. Hopefully we'll see you on happy hour tomorrow. And any other questions or any other follow-up,
Sounds
Joe?
good.
All right, great. Well, for those of you who are still here, thank you so much for joining. Um, Hopefully you'll join us for a community happy hour tomorrow at noon Eastern. And we have the Epic Daily Ritual Workshop next Thursday. And look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for being here. Bless each and every one of you and really appreciate everyone for being here today. It was a wonderful workshop. Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you, Ben. Take care,
Yeah, you're welcome. Bless
everybody.
you. Bye-bye.